was a teenager, I have dreamed about having the perfect boyfriend. What girl hasn't at some point in her life? I dreamed about my ideal guy many times and imagined all the qualities and traits he'd possess. He'd be smart, honest, and open-minded. He'd be polite and thoughtful, like a true gentleman. He'd make me laugh. He'd enjoy the same music, movies, and books that I did. My boyfriend would be practically perfect in every way. And it wouldn't hurt if he happened to look like Leo DiCaprio in the Titanic. The years went by and I realized I was being a hopeless romantic. I had lots of crushes and went on many dates, and I've never met the guy who met those high standards. So while I continued to dream of the day I met my Mr. Right, I never expected that the guy I met and ended up with would meet my high expectations. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests, the objective of my speech tonight is to deliver a personal story, and this is the most personal story I've ever shared in a crowd. Some of you may remember meeting my boyfriend Jerome at the area and division speech contest, which my mother participated in recently. You may be wondering how Jerome and I got together. Well, wonder no more. This is the story of how I finally found my first boyfriend. Friday, January 3rd, 2014. The year had barely begun, and my sister, brother, and I were invited to a party by some friends in Hollywood. Kind of a post-New Year's game night, board game night. Jerome was one of the few people I didn't recognize, but we hit it off pretty quickly. He looked friendly and approachable, brown eyes, blonde hair, ruggedly handsome. We were sitting on different couches across from each other and having a fun conversation. But the music got too loud and we couldn't hear each other anymore. So Jerome asked if I felt like sitting next to him on his couch so we could talk more easily. I said, sure, why not? And went over and sat by his couch. He smiled and said to me, "You're too good to me." We talked, we laughed, we played games with our friends, we had a wonderful time. Eventually, at the end of the night, we exchanged phone numbers. I felt like that girl from that hit song. Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. We talked, and I invited him to the beach that my family likes to frequent on Sundays. So 2 days later, there he was with his dad. And it was a beautiful day. We swam in the ocean, we played frisbee, we ate sandwiches. It was perfect. Until the clouds became gray and it started to rain. Everyone took cover and we huddled under umbrellas and kicked like we were all going to melt. Jerome sat right next to me, and I noticed that he was shivering from the cold, so I put a towel around him. Once again, he smiled and said, "Aw, you're too good to me." When my parents met Jerome, they recognized him and his father as old friends of ours. "Hey, it's the Genoris, you came back." I said, "Huh? Yeah, don't you guys remember? You used to play together when you were kids." I had no memory of this until we went back home and we dug up our photo albums and saw that we had indeed played together as children. Apparently we go way back. This was taken April 4th, 1998. Jerome and I were 5 and 6. It's crazy to think that we were childhood playmates before we reconnected as adults. This was taken on that rainy beach day. Jerome took out his phone and he was so happy to see me that he snapped a picture to capture the moment. I was touched. He wanted to remember this moment. Me, us together, that perfect beach day that we shared up to that point. And that's about the point that I realized. I wanted to keep making memories with this guy. I wanted to keep seeing Jerome. So over the next week, we texted each other back and forth. It was like every evening we would ask each other about our day and we'd find out something new about the other. Our list of common interests grew and grew until we knew that we simply had to see each other again. So we set a date for Saturday, January 11th, an actual date. I was so excited, and we planned on me driving to his house, we'd watch a movie, we'd maybe go on a picnic. It would be great. He texted me his address and I was ready to go. Actually, on the way to Jerome's house, I got a little lost. I don't own a smartphone and my car doesn't have GPS, so I had to copy down the directions from Google Maps ahead of time. The problem was, I got to my destination, but I didn't see Jerome. So I called him with my ordinary flip phone and said, "Hey Jerome, it's Bettina." "Yeah, I'm doing good. Listen, I'm a little embarrassed about this, but I'm lost. Can you please help me?" Jerome was happy to oblige and he gave me new directions, so I hung up and made my way. Unfortunately, I seemed to get even more lost, so I called him again and kept the phone glued to my ear with one hand on the wheel as Jerome fed me instructions on where to go. I tried my best to follow them, but I kept taking the wrong street and getting turned around, and I had no idea where I was. Finally, we realized I was driving in the wrong area entirely. I was looking for Southwest 76th Terrace when I should have been looking for Southwest 76th Terrace. He didn't live in Miami Gardens. He lived in South Miami. Curse you, Google Maps. Jerome was so sorry that I had to go on this whole wild goose chase, and he said he completely understood if I wanted to cancel the date and go back home. But I invested too much time and energy into trying to see him, so I said, "No way, I'm going to see you today." I could hear him smiling over the phone as he said, "Aw, you're too good to me, Bettina." Eventually, I got to his house, and he was ecstatic to see that I'd made it in one piece. After taking the grand tour of his house and getting introduced to his dog, Murphy, he decided to show me Breaking Bad, the first episode, on Netflix, because I'd never seen it before. We had a great time. It was a good show. And after that, we went to the store and bought some pita and hummus and grapes and had a picnic in the park as the sun began to set. It was so romantic. As we were sitting on the grass and holding hands, I decided to tell Jerome something personal. "Jerome, I've been on many dates and been with a few guys, but no guy has ever actually asked me to be their girlfriend." Jerome sat up and looked at me very seriously and said, "Bettina, would you like to be my girlfriend?" I was shocked, really. I mean, I was asking for it, yeah, but still. First date. It was my turn to smile at him and say, "Jerome, you're too good to me." The rest is history. In a few days, it'll be 3 months since that day we met at that after New Year's party. He may not look like Leo DiCaprio, but I don't care about that. I've met the guy of my dreams, and his name is Jerome Ginori.